Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Audit Tools webinar. Actually, this is the fifth occasion we've just counted, and thank you really for joining us on this very interesting topic, which is going to be on LC 360 assessment. My name is Ede Kocsős, and I'm head of business at Valoro Consulting in Hungary, and we are one of the partners of Audit Tools. And it's really a pleasure for me to be hosting this nice session. And before we jump into the topic, let me ask you two questions actually. And please write your answers in the chat. The first question is, which city are you based in? Where are you joining from? I would be very much interested. So please type in the chat. Let's see what we can see. Berlin, yeah. I thought so. There would be some. Shanghai, Nottingham, Manila. Wow. Vietnam also. Budapest and Shanghai. How do you do that at the same time from two different places?
Don't. It's breaking my heart to choose. So
thank you. Rome, Canada. Wow. I can say that this is really an international webinar. I think we can say that. I have another question. Have you ever used 360 assessment? Please write a yes or no in the chat. Yeah, a lot of yeses are coming. Thank you. I'm really happy that many of you have experiences, but I'm sure there will be some pieces of information that will be very interesting for you on this topic. And just about the agenda, we are going to have a short introduction on audit tools and the distributor network, and then we are going to dive into the topic with two experts on the topic, and we also will have an opportunity, or three experts on the topic, and then we also will have opportunity for Q&A at the end. And with this over, I would like to hand things over to Gábor Nagy, founder and managing director of Audit Tools. Over to you, Gábor.
Thank you very much. I warmly welcome everybody who is joining this webinar online with us right now, and also the people who are going to watch it in the future. A little company introduction. So OD Tools is a developer of psychometric tools, and we produce tools for interventions for OD consultants and also for providing data for HR processes on a daily basis. So we have, for individuals, we have psychometric tools for the psychological foundations. On the visible layer, we have 360s for behavioral competencies. On the team level, we have team effectiveness surveys. And on the organization level, we have organization effective surveys. So we can support OD consultants on multiple levels. Our topic is 360, leadership development, three experts that Ildiko mentioned. My presentation will be the last one. I will be talking about the details of the LC360 tool. And before me, Dr. Massimiliano Poltroni, our distributor in Italy, is going to talk about the importance of using 360s, talking about the self-perception of leaders and the blind spot. Before that, we are going to start with the presentation or the storytelling from Gábor Holch, the founder and lead consultant of East-West Leadership, who is using our tools in 2 continents. And his passion, the company name shows cross-cultural communication and leadership development. So I'm really excited to hear your story, Gábor Holch. So I give the stage over to you.
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to meet everybody here and share a little bit of my experience. And then a couple of clarifications. First of all, the two of us are not the same Gábor, because, you know, we regularly get requests to each other, and then we have to refer the client, and you're looking for the other Gábor. So we are two distinct Gábors. This is one, but we have known each other for very, very long. So actually, just after I arrived in China in 2002 and ended up in Shanghai in 2004, Gábor's company under a different name, that you were still HRO, not audit tools, but you were the same, the first hub where I started developing what is East-West leadership today, meaning it's a niche of a niche, really, of intercultural leadership solutions with everything that you need for leadership skills. So where I usually use this solution is in combination with executive coaching specialized in intercultural leadership skills. And I call it East-West leadership because I started working with East Asian branches of large European multinational companies and mainly Western leaders. But eventually these companies, as they started promoting East Asian leaders to global positions, so I started doing the same thing as well. So now I support Western leaders to work with the East, Eastern leaders to work with the West. And of course, you have mixed teams, mixed projects, and so on. My experience about why use 360 and why use this 360. So first of all, why use 360? It doesn't really matter if you're an advisor or a coach or a trainer, and especially if work with high-level executives who have a fair amount of ego brought into the program. So eventually you will get the question, says who? Like you say something like, you say anything about leadership style, about the styles of feedback, about how to lead teams, about how the team might perceive a certain leadership style. And then many leaders will challenge the expert, whether it's a coach, an advisor, or a trainer. And what you can do with the 360 is to demonstrate what is now, this is where the breakdown starts. What is the consensus, or where do opinions in different functions at different levels clash with each other? And both of them are very, very useful. So basically, the expert can say, it's not me who's saying this, it's your own people saying it. The fact that this particular 360 tool is so easy to break down into any different categories. So the leader or leaders in question can see if opinions are different in different levels, in different functions, in different segments of, let's say, age groups, locations. That makes this tool particularly useful. One of the great things about this particular tool is the visuality, that you can arrange the data into different graphs or charts. My senior leader participants absolutely love the one which kind of looks like a bow tie a little bit. It says these are the highest ranking traits, and then it goes down, 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 and then it goes all the way down to the lowest ranking traits. So it organizes data into a visual picture that is extremely clear to understand. And the leader, what they usually do is they assume, and I think they are right about that, is that in the cross section of the bow tie, those are the leadership behaviors which are kind of okay. You know, they meet the standards. It doesn't need immediate priority attention. But then the two ends are the very important ones. So when it comes to now that's when some biases come into the picture. So a lot of leaders, especially if they come from technical professions, engineering, chemistry, also law, finance. So those kind of professions where your primary performance indicator is to avoid mistakes, then they have a tendency to ignore the best part of the 360 and immediately focus on the worst part of the 360, because they put the bar up very high for themselves, and then they say, of course, I'm doing an amazing job on this, that's why I'm paid. And then they go immediately and they look at the worst ranking traits, and they look at them as kind of problems to fix. The worst of the worst is when they look at the lowest ranking traits and they ask the coach, who said that? We have to, yeah, especially if the sample is relatively small. So we immediately have to guide the leader away from that. But otherwise, what I try to make the leader experience is that the highest ranking traits are at least as important as the lowest ranking traits, because it's usually your personal strengths that help you to address the personal weaknesses. So it's not something that you are not doing something that you are supposed to do, is that you are not harnessing the potential of the strength in order to work with the weakness areas. So, for example, if somebody is amazing at data analysis and very, very good at spotting mistakes, but as it very often happens, they get a relatively low score on communicating a vision, on motivating people as a team, on creating a nice atmosphere. Then basically, I encourage these participants to find out what is the source code, what is the systematic methodology of motivating people, communicating a vision, and creating a constructive atmosphere. Because so all of these things can be turned into a strength area for people. I even coached somebody, a technical manager, who wanted to become a funny public speaker, and we even managed to engineer that. A couple of things about this particular tool in comparison to other tools in the market. Because as a part of advisory projects, sometimes it's part of my job to look around different tools. It is relatively easy to find 360 tools with an amazing back end IT support. It is relatively easy to find good 360s, but it's almost impossible to find something that puts the two together. So there are people who create a great IT solution, and it has an app, it has all kinds of payment packages and so on, but the tool itself is fairly primitive. Or you have an amazing tool, but then the support is not so good. So I would really honestly recommend this tool for merging these two things together. I would say that the content and the presentation of the tool is still stronger than the IT backend. So if I wanted to improve anything, it would be to bring this tool up to what it deserves in terms of working on mobile on both ends, both the HR and the survey taker, um, to make it a little bit more AI friendly, things like this. But I am sure that Gabor is working on those things. But if we look at just the questions, how thoughtfully they were put together, how well people react, the questions are very, very human. So these questions, they immediately show the tip of an iceberg under which there is an amazing story. Like when a leader says, very often what comes out is communicating vision, for example. And immediately the leaders say, okay, wait a minute. What is the difference between me believing in the vision and me communicating the vision? Just the question itself helps people to start going into this direction. I think it's extremely useful for both groups and individuals. Is it okay if I stop here and maybe take a couple of questions?
I actually do have a question because we are talking about the LC360 today, but you mentioned traits when
Yes.
you said the listing for the highest ranking traits or
Mhm.
your highest rated behaviors. You used the word trait. Was it conscious, or you were thinking of the trait map or other tool because that
No,
also
no,
have that
no.
system?
I
Or
used here I
yeah.
use trait in the most general sense of the word, which is basically like a set of behaviors that the participant can work on.
Mhm,
So, for
mhm,
example,
mhm,
so not in the sense of psychological traits, but as the word originally meant, is a kind of direction in behavior. So, in this case, for example, if if the 360 ranks high or low, clearly communicating a vision or inspiring others, and then people immediately look at themselves as, am I not inspiring enough? And then they would start working on this. It's not in trait in the psychological sense or scientific sense, but but trait in the everyday sense of the word.
Yes, and actually,
An aspect.
yeah, when I'm going to talk about my presentation, I will talk about that psychological traits are behind many of the questions. So, for example, this one about the inspiring, we know that it's related with extroversion. In the if we go to traits and treatment, the psychological foundations, it would be liveliness and persuasiveness. But great, thank you for the clarification.
May I add something here? It also, and this is now the heart of 360, is that it also depends very strongly on the environment that we are working on. So, for example, people, if we stay with communicating a vision or inspiring others, I very often meet this issue in introverted work environments. But then we shouldn't forget that very often in the same companies, like I did a project for Patek Philippe, I did chemical engineering company, and so on. That the environment is an introverted environment as well. So the leader can be, because they come from chemical engineering, they work in a lab, but then the team is introverted as well. So they have to find an introverted way to communicate an inspiring vision, which is very different from, let's say, a graphic design or a sales team.
Thank you very much. And I'm also conscious of the time at the same time. At the end, we will have more opportunity for asking questions. And now I'd like to give the stage over to Dr. Massimiliano Poltroni, founder and key consultant of Coaching Club and Genio Skills, and our distributor in Italy. So Max,
Thanks.
over to you.
Thanks, Gabor. Thanks for your time to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm Massimiliano Poltroni. I'm a professional certified coach and also a psychologist specialized in work and organizational psychology. So founder of Coaching Club, and we work with our coaches because we train coaches and profilers and assessors to work with audit tools and with our coaching tools. Our work combines coaching, organizational psychology, behavioral science, and data-driven assessment tools, the audit tools. I am very happy to be partner of audit tools because this platform is a disruptive platform, a game changer if we use it properly, because it's so detailed and so has a huge attention to people. So I share some slides for you. Okay, our partnership is very important for us. So we are doing training to our consultants and coaches in Italy to go inside the companies, to know better the companies, starting by people analytics, which is the good approach in this moment to make the difference in the market. So not only speaking about coaching or facilitation, we have to talk about people analytics or organizational development. So I'd like to start with this iceberg, talking about leadership, because we know there is a blind spot. The why for people come to us is that, for leaders come to us, is that maybe they're not totally aware of their blind spot, because this is the real danger in leadership. And is often not what we don't know, is what we don't see. People think they see something, they are conscious they see achievements, they see strengths, decisions, intentions, but they don't see this blind spot, the impact they have on their people. And this is a starting point to approach to companies and to leaders when we talk about LC 360, because it's very important to let they be aware of what they don't see, that is the impact of their leadership. So the problem is not my leadership style. The problem is what happens when you approach to leadership. What happens to your people when they are in your leadership moments? So let's make some example of the most important leaders, great entrepreneurs of our business story. We see Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Travis Kalanick, Elizabeth Holmes. They have different personalities, but of course, different industries, but similar dynamics. Success reinforced certainty. Feedback disappeared, and over time, reality became distorted. The thing is that they have blind spot, even if they are successful leaders. That's why maybe they lose some of their relationship with people. So success without people, we know that is not healthy and a long-term success. So the thing is, there is an important moment is when nobody tells them the truth anymore, because we know that a very successful leader sometimes is not aware of people and what they say about his leadership. So there is a syndrome, the hybris syndrome, that after repeated success, some leaders gradually lose contact with feedback and develop invulnerability bias and increase risky decision making. This is the phenomenon often connected with successful leadership. And after repeated success, leaders may gradually lose reflection, critical listening, realistic perception of risk. So the good success is to start replacing this with self-awareness. And this is what LC 360 can do. So the same thing can happen with power. Power can reduce empathy and sensitivity to feedback. So when there is a huge power, empathy, listening, social accuracy decrease. This is a research from Kellner, Granfield, and Anderson. And success, early success, we told about this. Feedback decreases. And there is this gap, self-perception and others' perception. And when I started to work with LC, I think this is a starting point for this gap is very important. And this radar, this image, has a great meaning, because when a manager or a leader see this, they see a mirror, and they understand how they are perceived, where gaps exist, and what emotional impact they create, where leadership alignment may be missing. So this radar can be very important to let also excellent leader who deliver results, but they are weak in emotional support. So usually leaders only see part of this picture. So all these slides to say leadership lives in perception. If we start with this, to let them understand the importance of this gap, of the blind spot, we can have the good approach to companies and to leaders. There is also a neuroscience explanation about LC 360, and Gabor will say us the 7 competencies very important. We can say that there is also a neuroscience approach to these and the benefits to these core competencies with the leadership. And we can use, of course, this tool to change, to let company change, to have the right approach to the change. So we can use coaching, we can use training, we can use continuous practice, because we know how important is not only doing coaching, not only doing facilitation. We need to create a continuous learning mindset for people, and especially for manager to fill these gaps. So the value of seeing clearly means awareness, trust, and growth. I will close with a real question. Am I a good leader? Or we have to push the leaders to make the right question. What happens to people when they experience my leadership? Okay, thank you for your attention. And I give now the word to Gabor.
Thank you very much, Max. And I think both of you, Gabor Holch and Max, you laid the foundation for understanding why LC, why 360 is important, and how comes our tool into this picture. I'm going to say quite a lot today because actually this is the first time when a more detailed presentation on the LC360 goes on the record, so that we really record it. So it's kind of historical. This part of the presentation is for everybody who is working with leaders. And I'm going to introduce the competency model behind the LC360 and also a little bit of history and the considerations behind the model. And then we'll show you sample reports and explain the functions. And we'll show you a very unique proprietary technology, which is optional, the solution-focused feedback technology. And I think that will be new for many people. So I am the developer of the LC360. And previously, I have developed leadership competency models for assessment centers, for companies, for kind of generic use in the company and education of the company. Also created competency models for very unique special positions, and also developed other psychometric tools. So as a developer, when I develop a new tool, a model for a new tool, this is one of the central questions that I want to explain to you. That if we want to be comprehensive, want to ask everything, every facet of leadership, or if we look at different tools and see what they're asking, if you want to take the best from all, it is a lot. And yes, the tool can be comprehensive, but at the same time, it takes a lot of time from people and they get tired of it. So there's a high cost of that. So we try to make all the survey tools and tests concise, shorter, save the time. But that one has a risk that maybe the tool itself will have a blind spot. Because both of you talked about the importance of showing the blind spot. If the tool is not comprehensive, not asking the most important facets, maybe we leave an important blind spot without assessment. So we need to find a balance. We need an instrument which is saving the time of people and comprehensive at the same time. And my approach in this case was to combine three very influential models of leadership. The learning agility is the message is very simple that leaders have to be lifelong learners these days. They must have curiosity and openness to ideas. And basically, with 2-3 items, we can cover this, the most important message of this model. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the two other models that influence, starting with the 6 emotional leadership styles. Are you familiar with this? Have you read the Primer Leadership from Daniel Goleman? I would highly recommend it. Daniel Goleman is most known about emotional intelligence, but his work around leadership is also pretty unique. And I think where it's really excelling is his 6 leadership style. Basically, through research, he identified all the important ways leaders make an impact. And he put it in 6 categories. And a good instrument must address these 6 styles of leadership to be comprehensive, to have not big blind spots. And it's not like one of the style is better than the other. You have to use them situationally, all have some advantages and so on. Another source was the grade 8 research. There is a grade 8 competency factors, which is used by the SHL group, which is the top hierarchy of the 300 competencies. It has 3 layers, and the grade 8 is the top layer. And its SHL is very well known. They have a lot of data. It's a very influential model, but not for me, at least personally. The most important message of this model is not the exact competencies, but one principle that Professor Bartram published, that leadership competencies are aligned with known attributes. To give you an image, it is something like we have the universe, space, but there is no matter everywhere. Most of the space is empty, and then we have stars and planets and black holes where all the matter are basically, and then there's a lot of empty space in between them. And this is also similar to competencies, if we would put them into kind of mathematical space, that they are clustering. And these clusters happen around attributes we know from psychology. And one of them, or 5 of them, the traits, the big 5. And then there is IQ, general mental ability, an important cluster, need for achievement, and need for power. A good comprehensive instrument needs to address all these. So this is our model. We have 7 domains and 4 specific behaviors, which also 4 questions in the questionnaire or 4 items in the report, which make up 28 competency elements. And that's it. So this 360 is not 100 questions, 80 questions, or 60 questions. It's only 28 questions. Show you a few examples. For example, clearly defining the direction, objectives, and sub-objectives. What is this? Well, it is relating to the visionary style from Goleman, but also the commanding style of Goleman. Somewhat also to extroversion, like assertiveness, would be a little bit aligned with this. Setting challenging goals with high expectations. This would be the pace-setting style of Goleman. From the viewpoint of traits, in trait map, this would be drive. And from the viewpoint of anchor motivation, this would be the need for achievement, and so on. And the first one, we can also relate it to the need for power. So our items are selected to cover these important areas that we must address. And many of the items actually addresses multiple ones, not only one. And what Gabor Holch mentioned, that these items are kind of human, that's why it's relatively easy to relate to them. And also in our mind, we can relate it with behavior easier. And especially the others, because the visionary style is the most abstract or modern, but the others are very everyday. Okay, I'm going further. So the question itself, another innovation is the rating anchors. That is only 4, not 7 or 6 or 5. Major improvement needed, some improvement needed, very good, excellent. So cognitively, it is easier. And whatever is the rating, it's good news. If the rating is excellent or very good, no problem. It means that you have these strengths and it's confirmed. The impact to the people is confirmed. And if it's some improvement needed, major improvement needed, it also doesn't mean it's terrible. It means that you know where there is the room for improvement, the possibility, where are the opportunities for improvement. So with this, we are turning the entire process and the report and everything into a more positive tune. And the LC has two free text input questions at the end, as most of the 360s. One is asking about the strength, and one is asking about weaknesses. I want to show you a report. So Max talked about Steve Jobs. This would be a fictional report for him. In blue, we see the ratings from the others average, and brown is the self-rating and would show the differences that Max talked about. And we have these data in various presentations in more details. So here it's more elaborated. Now we see the others average for every item in the full model. We see the highest rated behaviors. So these would be the traits Gabor talked about, the highest ones. And we see the lowest rated behaviors where many people like to jump immediately. So we need to make sure that they also spend time with the highest rated behaviors and asking questions like, what enabled me to be good? And do I use my strength to the maximum? So we go further in our tour. We have underestimated behaviors and overestimated behaviors. So this is the contrasting the self-perception and perception of others. We have rater differences. This page shows how the different rating groups, and you can have many rating groups in our system. Here we have 3 subordinates, peers, and others. How each of the groups sees the impact of leadership. And then we can see it also by items, which are the items where the differences are the greatest between the groups. So the report provides detailed analysis from many perspectives. Then we see the details by the competency domains, so the 7 domains. And at the end, we are going to have the suggestions, and we have suggestions generated by the system from pre-written best practices, what people usually do when they need to develop teamwork and team spirit effectively. Why it is important how to develop it. So the system gives suggestions to people in 6 areas. And then at the end, we are going to see the written comments of people put into one bucket per feedback provider groups. Here we see different questions. This is just a fictional report, but you get the idea. So this was the sample report. And the features, to summarize, has a scientific foundation. It's universal. It works for any level of leaders. Because the grade 8 is universal, the learning agility model is universal, the 6 ties is universal, everything is universal. It doesn't relate to how high you are in your leadership. And then comprehensive yet efficient. So this efficiency, if we save 10 minutes per person who is filling in this assessment, reading the report, everything, if you have 20 feedback receivers and 10 feedback providers for each, that saves 33 hours of people's life. And some features of the system, the IT system, multilingual, and it is mobile enabled, so people can complete the assessment through the mobile. But yes, the backend is not mobile enabled. You can get the PDF reports that we showed to you, but you can also export the results in Excel format. So you can do people analytics further with the results. And to run large projects, so we had projects with hundreds of feedback receivers and thousands of feedback providers, you can do that relatively streamlined. It is a lot of data, and all these relationships, who gives feedback to whom, and it's crossing all over. It's pretty complex, but through our system, you can do it relatively easily. So you can handle large projects. And the solution-focused technology that I want to mention, that you remember, I showed you that the 360, as most tools, have two open-ended questions at the end about strengths and weaknesses. The solution feedback technology, it lets you explicitly select the strengths and top improvement needs from the items, from the competencies included in the model. And the text comments will be asked explicitly to connect it to the top improvement needs. I'll show you how it works. So for example, we are giving this time feedback to Elon Musk. And just pay attention to this example that, for example, we said creating an open and friendly work climate and developing teamwork and team spirit effectively are the major improvement needs. And others we rate high. And for example, being a curious lifelong learner, we made it excellent. And after completing the normal Likert type part, we will see something very different. So this is the unique solution focused technology. The items that were ranked high, for example, Elon Musk had many items ranked high, we need to select explicitly 1 to 5 items that we think are the top strengths. So when you see being a curious lifelong learner is here because I identified as a strength, but here from the strengths I need to select again. And about improvement areas, these were the ones that I scored lower. I need to select the top ones, the most relevant ones, the most important ones. So here I select these two, in this just as an example, open and friendly work climate, developing teamwork. And then the system is going to ask for the improvement suggestions in these two areas. So it's not just in general strengths and weaknesses, but first you write less. You only write about the improvement and give specific suggestions related to specific behaviors. So when to use the solution focused? If the client, the people are new to 360, don't use the solution focused. It's complicated. Everybody knows the normal one. So use the normal one. It's easier to implement and it works fine. But if the client has used 360 many times and the same people used 360 many times, always write about the strengths and the weaknesses. Somehow you always write the same. You get tired of it. It's becoming less effective and you always read kind of similar things. So then the solution focused technology is great because people have been through that already. So they can be more streamlined. So these suggestions will be more specific, directly linked to the improvement needs. That was it in a nutshell. Feel free to download the sample reports for the solution focused and the normal to see the differences. And I see time is almost 50, so I give back the stage for generic questions and comments. And at the end, we also have a 2 minute song. We will have just a few minutes of questions.
Just a quick question.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. Do you use LC 360 combined with trait map?
Yes. They are very good complementers. I would not do it at the same time.
Yeah.
But in a development process, because they are a different level. So one is the visible, the impact on others, and the other is a psychological foundations to a deeper looking inside.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So, Gabor, basically, sometimes here in Italy, what happens is that leaders don't want the feedback. So that's a problem. Maybe sometimes, even in China or in other countries. So maybe sometimes starting with trade map could be open the mind to receive feedback in a half term, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, in my experience, those who resist the feedback, then you tell them, okay, why don't we look at your behavioral profile or personality profile? I think you will get the same resistance. What I usually do is then I basically postpone any kind of assessment or survey, work with the people for a couple of hours, and we build up the need. We have a chemistry session. If it's a coaching, then I deliver the first two sessions. And then basically we ask too many questions to which the survey would be a good answer.
Yeah.
Good, sir.
Hey, Gabor, I had my hand up. I just wanted to thank everybody for their time today. Dr. I don't want to call you Max because that's too familiar. Dr. Massimiliano, thank you for your time. I like the neuroscience element. Gabor Holtz, thanks for connecting. For me, it's the tension between strengths and limitations, the conversation that needs to be held there in a kind and careful way sometimes. Could you give an example of how that worked? I know we don't have a lot of time and this is a 2-day answer, but could you give me, Gabor, just an indication of an example of how you helped limitations or strengths pull up limitations in the findings of a 360? Well, yeah.
So I hope my answer will be not too esoteric, but what helps me the most is my belief in systems like Taoism and Heraclitus's philosophy. I truly believe that our strengths and weaknesses are just two sides of the same coin. And then if you flip the coin often enough, you just heal one with the other. So I work with systems like TradeMap, and then basically I really believe that if you look at your strong area, you can harness those behaviors to fix what you think are your limitations or weaknesses. But you know how many qualifications are used in this sentence? I think basically people who keep facing their limitations or weaknesses, they are just pushing in the wrong direction, the wrong way temporarily.
Thank you.
I
also
would like to give a very quick one. So multiple cases of the managers who deliver excellent results, but somehow burn the people around them. And one transformation of one manager, he said, from now on, my first purpose will be to give confidence to my people. Because I was working a lot on my self-confidence, and I think I'm very confident now. But now I realize I need to give confidence to the people so that they can perform. And with that, our time is up. So let's close with this song for now this is a tradition that for every tool, we create a summary that kind of summarizes what we presented, summarizes what is interesting about these tools. So welcome.
Okay, so the song is coming.
Thanks.
Calling all the managers, leaders at every door, from the starting team leads to the executive floor. If you want to grow, you need to see the truth. Gathering the data, providing the proof. With all the tools to guide your way, it's 360 made easy, starting today. It's the LC360 efficient and bold. Only 28 items, the story is told. Saving time, gaining insight, building awareness each day. Leading your people in a data-driven way. It's a unique blend A methodology refined with the grade 8 factors and learning, agility entwined, 6 emotional leadership styles in the mix, identifying strengths and the behaviors to fix. From the self-ratings to the others, average you see how your peers and subordinates see you. 7 domains that light up the core, sharing the vision, looking for more, influencing others, gaining support, team building, making the group a cohort, supporting others with empathy and care, innovating ideas into the air, delivering results, keeping focus and pace, acting responsibly with values in play. Don't just look at weaknesses, build on your strengths. The report goes to detail and analytical lengths, from open-ended comments to the low-hanging fruit. Your development plan will soon take root, with targeted suggestions for every need, giving you the wisdom you need to lead. LC 360, efficient and bold, only 28 items a story is told. Saving time, gaining insight, building awareness each day, leading your people in a data-driven way. So open up the book, start the action plan soon, aligning your leadership to a better tune. Improve self-awareness and give to behold the LC 360, let the future unfold. All people in a data-driven way.
So thank you very much for being here with us today. And thank you for our experts sharing their thoughts on LC 360. And I'm really looking forward to our next session next month. Thank you for coming.